Hello everyone. Today we shall be studying the story Who Did Patrick's Homework by Carol Moore, who was an American educator, writer, and advocate for children's libraries. Following her graduation in 1896, she became children's librarian at the Pratt Institute Free Library, the first library built with a special room designed for children's work. She created colorful, inviting reading rooms where children could explore thoughtfully chosen books on a variety of topics and gather for regularly scheduled story hours. Before you read, do you like homework? I don't think most of us like doing homework. Do you do it yourself or do you get help? There is a lot of help involved, especially during summer holidays wherein you get a lot of projects and the whole family gathers to complete those projects and homework. What homework do you usually have? Usually it is written work, which is very boring and uninteresting for most of you. Now let us find out in the story about the character Patrick, if he does his homework himself or was it somebody else who did homework for him. Now in this story there is no magic but only make believe, but there is Patrick's own inspiration personified. Within magical realism, there is this term magical realism. The world is still grounded in the real world, but there are a lot of magical elements that are considered very normal, like in fairy tales and Harry Potter, where there is magic involved, but it still appears to be a real world. So there is fantasy, but the world is real. There is a very thin line between fantasy and real world. So we'll find out if it was Patrick who did his homework or was it somebody else. Let's move on to the story. Patrick never did homework. Too boring, he said. He played hockey and basketball and Nintendo instead. His teachers told him, Patrick, do your homework or you won't learn a thing. And it's true, sometimes he did feel like an ignoramus. But what could he do? He hated homework. So, Patrick really found homework boring and he never liked doing homework. But what did he like? He liked playing basketball, he liked playing hockey and Nintendo. What is Nintendo? Video game. Now, Patrick's teachers kept telling him that if he won't do his homework, he won't be able to learn a thing. And he also felt that he is becoming someone who is lacking education, he is not studying, but still he did not do his homework because he hated it a lot. Then one day he found his cat playing with a little doll and he grabbed it away. To his surprise, it wasn't a doll at all, but a man of tiniest size. He had a little wool shirt with old-fashioned breeches and a high tall hat, much like a witch's. He yelled, Save me! Don't give me back to that cat. I'll grant you a wish, I promise you that. Now, Patrick found his cat playing with a little doll. So it wasn't really a doll, but he was a man who was very tiny, very small. And what was he wearing? He was wearing a little wool shirt with old fashioned short trousers and he wore a high tall hat which appeared like that of a witch. He yelled, Save me! Don't give me back to that cat. So that tiny man requested Patrick not to give it back to the cat and he promised that whatever wish that Patrick would make, he would grant him that. Patrick could not believe how lucky he was. Here was the answer to all of his problems. So he said, "Only if you do all my homework till the end of the semester, that's 35 days. If you do a good job enough, I could even get A's." So Patrick felt really lucky and he felt very fortunate that, now finally he has solved his problem by asking that tiny man to do all his homework, and he would have to do it till the end of the semester, and that was 35 days time. Now he also said that if you will do my homework and all my work really well, I could score an A grade, and that would be really good for me. The little man's face wrinkled like a dishcloth thrown in the hamper. He kicked his legs and doubled his fists, and he grimaced and scowled and pursed his lips. "Oh, am I cursed? But I'll do it." Now, the little man did not want to go back to the cat, and also he had, vowed that he would help Patrick. So, in order to fulfill his promise, he had to work for him, and he felt really sad, and his face expressions were showing anger and disapproval. He wasn't really wanting to do the homework, but he had to, so he could not do really anything about it. And his face had become wrinkled like a dishcloth, so it appeared as if the cloth that is used for washing the dishes, it was thrown away and was somewhat wrinkled, and his face appeared like that. So he was really sad, but he could not do anything. And true to his word, that little elf began to do Patrick's homework. Except there was one glitch. The elf did not always know what to do, and he needed help. Help me," he would say. And Patrick would have to help in whatever way. "I don't know this word," the elf squeaked while reading Patrick's homework. "Get me a dictionary." "No, what is even better? Look up the word and sound it out by each letter." Since Elf had promised Patrick to do all his homework, and he fulfilled his promise also, so he started doing his work, but there was a little fault, or there was a problem involved, that he could not always do everything on his own, and he wanted some help. So, whom did he call out for help? He called out Patrick, and he shouted in his high pitched voice that I am not able to get this word, I don't know this word, I'm finding English very difficult, because he did not know how to read words. So what did he do? He asked Patrick initially to give him the dictionary, but then he asked him that it would be better if you look up the word and speak out or spell out the word. When it came to maths, Patrick was out of luck. "What are times tables?" the elf shrieked. Now, the elf could not even do maths work. He found it difficult to even know the basic things like tables. So again, he shouted in a even louder voice that, "Patrick, I need your help. I don't know what tables are, and I have never really used them. We elves never really need these times tables. So, what is it? Please help me out." "And addition and subtraction and division and fractions? Here, sit down beside me. You simply must guide me. Elves know nothing of human history. To them, it's a mystery." So the little elf, already a shouter, just got louder. "Go to the library. I need books, more and more books, and you can help me read them too." Now, the elf found maths very difficult. He did not know what addition, subtraction, division, fractions, what all of these are. And he asked Patrick to sit beside him and guide him and, teach him what basic maths is. And he even did not know about human history, and he was completely clueless what history was. So he got irritated, and he even shouted at a very loud voice, and he said, go to the library, and I need books. I will have to read more and more books. He can find out about more and more facts, and he could know about history. So he asked Patrick to help him out. As a matter of fact, every day, in every way, that little elf was a nag. So he was becoming more and more irritating day by day because he did not know these subjects, and he found it really difficult to help Patrick. So he always wanted Patrick's help. Patrick was working harder than ever, and was it a drag? He was staying up nights, had never felt so weary, was going to school with his eyes puffed and blurry. So, Elf was, you know, getting a lot of help from Patrick, and he made him work really hard. Now, Patrick never did his homework, but now unknowingly he was helping Elf and completing his homework on his own. And he did not even realize it. So he was waking up day and night, and he was working very hard, and he went to school also. So, since he was deprived of sleep, he felt very tired. He was so exhausted, and his eyes had become, very puffy, and he was totally tired. Finally, the last day of school arrived, and the elf was free to go. As for homework, there was no more. So he quietly and slyly slipped out the back door. Finally, the last day of school arrived, and elf was no more required because the semester ended, and he had promised to be with Patrick for 35 days. Now he was free to go. And he felt really happy and relieved that there was no more homework, and he quietly and slyly slipped out the back door. So he was very happy that he was now free, and he very secretly moves out from the house, and he was no more required to do the homework. Patrick got his A's, his classmates were amazed, his teachers smiled and were full of praise, and his parents, they wondered what had happened to Patrick. He was now the model kid. Cleaned his room, did his chores, was cheerful, never rude, like he had developed a whole new attitude. Now, everybody was taken aback. They were really shocked and surprised that Patrick had really performed well, and he was praised by everyone, his parents, his classmates, his teachers. So, everybody was really surprised, and Patrick had changed himself a lot. He did not even realize it, and he had kind of become a model kid because he, cleaned his room, he did his chores, he was very cheerful now, he was not rude to people, he had become more polite. So, this whole attitude, this, new attitude that he had developed, it was very charismatic. He had developed into a very polite person, a very beautiful person. So it was very shocking for everybody because he had transformed himself completely. You see, in the end, Patrick still thought he had made that tiny man do all his homework. But I'll share a secret just between you and me. It wasn't the elf. Patrick had done it himself. So, The writer says that Patrick did not realize that he had done his homework himself while helping that tiny man, Elf. He did not feel or realize that he was doing all his homework by himself. He was under the impression that all the work was being done by Elf. Since Patrick had helped himself, so we can say that self help is the best help. With this, we come to the end of today's video. See you next time.